All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in for another episode on Auction Maverick. So today we're going to talk about like a somewhat, well, I'm just going to say that the internet thinks that these 5 cars are bad cars. They get a really bad rap, and we're going to clear all that up. So let's get started. So the first vehicle that we're going to talk about is actually the Nissan Rogue. Okay, so these years from, let's see here, like 2008 to 2015, I would generally stay away from these unless they meet a certain criteria, okay? So like what I mean by that is I usually stick to like one owner vehicles, and I don't buy these vehicles unless I have seen the Carfax, okay? You really want to be certain on these. And make sure the transmission fluid has been flushed or changed at least a couple times. I would actually prefer it to be changed over flushed. Honestly, I don't think flushing transmission fluid really does anything if it has been more than like 40 to 50,000 miles, okay? You're just moving around all of the, particles and everything that came from those last 50 or 60 or however thousand miles, okay? So that's like kind of the first generation of the Nissan Rogue. I would not buy one if it has more than 120,000 miles on it. Okay, and those are kind of getting to be few and far between at this point. When you're test driving these, you really want to make sure that you test the transmission and you pay attention to the sounds that the transmission makes under load. You don't want to have any like a radio or any accessories on in the car when you are test driving these cars, okay? So then the generation after that, okay, came from 2014 to 2020. Now, low key, if you are a buyer and you can find one of these that is maybe a 1 or 2 owner, less than 120,000 miles, if you can get it in an SV or an SL trim level, all the better. But these cars, if they have had their transmission fluid changed, they can actually last a really long time. You just need to establish expectations with the person that you're selling it to. Obviously, you're not going to throw the transmission under the bus. There's no reason to throw the transmission under the bus. The reason these cars get a bad rap is because people don't maintain their vehicles. I have sold a lot of these Nissan Rogues, okay? They are dependable, but you're not going to win any races with them. And I hope somebody doesn't buy them with the intent of doing any racing with them. So now, as far as like margins go on these cars, you can get them for extremely cheap. And sometimes, depending on how old it is and what its mileage is, it can actually book out for quite a bit. So just for instance, a 2016 Nissan Rogue S, okay, just the basic trim level, okay, still booked out for around $10,900, okay? However, we sold it, I think, for 8. Yeah, you might say, hey, that was, $3,000 below book. Well, we only got it for $3,800. So in the grand scheme, we still made $3,000 because all it needed was some trim pieces replaced, okay? Now, obviously, what would I do if it were my dealer? If it were my dealer and I bought a Nissan Rogue, I would do a drain and fill on the transmission fluid. It's very easy to do, and honestly, you can tell somebody to do something, hey, this, in regards to, hey, if I buy a car, is there anything like, I should maybe do besides my oil change? I usually say, hey, change one fluid a year. Obviously, outside of your oil. Do your differential one year. Do your front differential the other. Do your transmission fluid, like that. And when you do things like that, it doesn't break the bank, and it still allows you to maintain the, the core mechanicals of your car, okay? So the second vehicle that we are going to do today is the Ford Fusion S, and this is going to be a lot shorter segment here. A Ford Fusion S comes with a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated motor. I did another video about which engines are really dependable, and if you're buying for like under $10,000, like which engines are going to be very dependable. I did mention this engine. So obviously, an S is the basic version of Ford's, Fusion model. Okay, and in this case, basic wins. All the other trim levels have super small Ford EcoBoost motors in them. Now, some of them have a 2-liter EcoBoost motor in them, and those ones are okay. Okay, but the lower displacements I would absolutely stay away from. So you can definitely find these vehicles for very, very cheap. You can see a lot of these. I guarantee you, if you have a JD Buyrider in your town, you drive by and you just pay attention as time goes on, they're going to keep at least 1 or 2 of these, if not more, on their lots, just because they can be acquired for very, 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 very cheap, but they still book out for a decent amount. So, all right. So the third vehicle that we're going to do here is the Acura RDX. Okay. Some people that I talk to about these cars don't really like them because they say that they have transmission issues, and they do run a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated Honda motor that does run off of a timing belt. Well, I think all cars are going to have transmission problems if they aren't properly maintained, and the majority of your cars that you're buying are over 100,000 miles, but like less than 150,000 miles. So that's just something that you really need to take into consideration if you're a buyer. Now, if you're a used, if you're shopping for a used SUV like an RDX, you definitely want to try and get a hold of a Carfax. No offense to any dealers that don't have Carfax, but having a Carfax is extra peace of mind, and it is 2026. I don't care how many cars you sell. If you can provide a Carfax for your car, that just makes you look a lot better as a dealer. So these Acura RDXs are unbelievably dependable. Acura is Honda's luxury platform, okay? But when it comes to test driving these cars, you really just need to make sure you test the things that they are known, if any, to have problems with. So that means when you're driving that RDX, you are testing that transmission under light throttle, under heavy throttle, under different scenarios, different driving scenarios, so that you can be sure. I probably bought, I'd say, at least 20 Acura RDXs, and I only had one that had a head gasket issue, and honestly, it's something that I never should have bought. I made a mistake. I wasn't able to drive it. I should have sat there in the car and saw if it overheat. Okay, but I just didn't do it that day. So luckily, it had some other issues on the frame, so we were able to get out of it. All right, so number 4 is going to be the 2005 to 2009 Buick LaCrosse. Okay, if you can find one of these that is not rusted out, that has the 3800 Series 3 engine from GM, then you're going to have yourselves a very, very powerful, very dependable, A to B kind of car. Okay. These cars run for an extremely long time. Sometimes the water pump, will go out on them, but generally these are going to be at a pretty good price anyway. So budgeting something like that would not be a bad thing to do. The last of the 5 here, the last one is going to be a 2009 to 2014 Nissan Murano. Now, if you were to ask me what vehicle below $8,000 or $9,000 is going to give me the best value, as long as I, do the proper maintenance to it. And the Nissan Murano is actually, one of the vehicles that I would put up there. If you can get one of these cars in a platinum, then you're definitely going to be in good shape. I remember a scenario when Odessa had 3 of these. They had a 2012 that I think had right at like 133,000 miles on it. They had a 2014 that was blue. These were all platinums. There was a blue one that had about 120,000 miles on it, and then there was one that was pearl that was in extremely good shape. There was a one owner, and I think it had like 105,000 miles on it. Okay, Now, if we would put all of those on the lot at the same time, I'm telling you, they would have all sold within a week. They all sold within a week as they were. But the older one, the 2012, needed a couple things done on it. But when you are looking at these cars, obviously, be mindful of the transmission. But in a case where if you don't know, or you have no way to prove or validate when the transmission fluid has been changed, just do it yourself. It's very easy to do. Go to a shop. It's not going to cost more than $100 to $150. If it does, that's kind of bogus in my opinion. But the last thing on these, besides obviously driving and checking the transmission and all that, you need to check out the rear subframe and where it connects everything together, and where the differential comes past it. These are known to kind of rust out where all of that kind of connects. So make sure you really get up underneath and get past the differential and look right up past the differential and towards the inside of the car. Okay. So the reason why I say this car is like a really, really good value is if you can get a platinum edition, you get a huge sunroof, you get like blind spot monitoring, you get radar based cruise, you get a ton of extra features. I think the rims are bigger, and ultimately you get a power lift gate. Obviously you get leather. I think it's obviously probably a given, but you get heated seats obviously in the front, but in the platinums you also get heated seats in the rear. Okay, so this is a very, very, very big value. And just to give you perspective on the Pearl Nissan, sold it to a gentleman named Josh for his daughter. And that car booked out, I think, for right around $11,000. And I think we sold it for like $8,800. Okay. So just know that if you are a buyer, Nissans, you're not going to sell them at book. Okay. But all right, guys. So that's 5 cars that I think the internet is wrong about. Okay. We're going to do many more of these videos. There's many more cars out there that I think get a bad rap, but I just wanted to get started with these 5. So thanks for tuning in and watching another episode of Auction Maverick. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Thank you.